let's mix it up. Hello there, welcome back to the Jean May channel. I am Paula Jean, and I am going to out myself a little bit to you guys and admit that I never really got that into Pinterest. I set up an account many years ago. I did set up some different boards and stuff to collect inspiration, and I did that for like a few months, but I've never been a regular user of it. However, I do visit it like every couple of months for maybe half an hour or so. It's so many ads now, it's infuriating. But I did revisit my print mixing board. Print mixing has been super popular in the sewing community for a while now, and I kind of dipped my toes into it last year when I made my calico quilting cotton cap sleeve blouse, which I love and wear all the time, and I get compliments on it every time I wear it. But revisiting that print mixing board reminded me that there's actually a dress that I have been wanting to make for a long time now, so I'm finally going to do it. The pattern I'm going to be using is the Bellum Night dress from Marilla Walker, who used to be an indie pattern designer in the UK. She kind of closed up her pattern making business in 2024 to pursue other creative endeavors. However, she very graciously decided to keep kind of a skeleton version of her website up and offer a few of her more popular patterns for free. So I'm going to leave that link down below. She does write the caveat that she's not going to be offering support or anything for those patterns, but she did make all of the pattern files available for free, which I think is just such a lovely thing to do. To me, the Bellum Night is sort of a modern version of the prairie or cottage style dress, and I think it's the perfect pattern for people who like that style, but who don't want to do like 85 miles of gathering ruffles or skirt tiers or what have you. The main pattern has two versions. Version A has a V-neck and these long voluminous sleeves, and the sleeves set into a princess seam in the bodice. The skirt part is a kind of an A-line with a bell style bottom. So you see that style sort of more in sleeves, but she's done it on the skirt here. And in view B, she's got a button placket. It's still a V style neck, but it's got a button placket down the front. It's got a shorter sleeve that has a pleated ruffle at the end. There is also a bonus pleated sleeve that is also a long sleeve, but it has these pleats along the princess seam where it inserts into the bodice, just to give a little bit more volume if that's your thing. The version I am making is actually a third option, which is a different neckline. It's a high neckline that is either just a plain rounded one, or it has a slit in the center front that has ties as well. This was an add-on that was available when she was selling the pattern. It's not in the free pattern files, but that is the version that I am going to be making. I'm also going to be doing that bonus pleated sleeve. So I have already made a quick and dirty toile, and very happy with the fit. So you can kind of get a little bit of an idea of what those pleats in the sleeves are. And there is a center back seam into which you insert an invisible zipper for the back, but I could get this on over my head without any kind of a zipper. I didn't put one in my toile here. Okay, let's get to the fabrics. So the main fabric I'm going to be using is this beautiful magenta and burgundy and light blue crinkle chiffon. This is actually the same exact kind of fabric, just in a different print as the dress that I'm wearing, which is the Simone dress by Victory Patterns. And I absolutely adore this. It's one of my go-to things to throw on the hottest days in the summer, even though it's a polyester crinkle chiffon. It's just so light and breezy that all of the air just passes through it, and it's great. So this is the same kind of fabric, just in a different print, and it's got this really cool wide selvage that only part of the printing is on. And I don't know if this is maybe the reason it ended up in the dead stock pile that I got it in 2 decades ago, but it's just the burgundy flowers on the white. And so it's this about like maybe an 1.25 inches, edge on both sides. I have loosely laid out my pattern pieces, and I know that none of them goes into this part of the selvage. So I'm actually going to be cutting this off on both sides and using it to make my own trim. So I'm going to take the raw edge and run it through the rolled hem settings on my serger with a light blue thread to bring in some of the blue from the floral. And I'm going to use it as a trim. I want to gather it, like not a super gathered gather. I just want it to kind of have a little bit of dimension and stick off of the fabric a little bit, because I'm going to be putting it into the princess seam in the bodice. So that's how that works in my head anyway. The other fabric I'm using is actually an upcycle from a tank top, a woven tank top that I bought many years back, and I wore this for years even though it didn't fit very well, just because I really loved the fabric. So it's this also a chiffon, not a crinkle, but it's just this burgundy that's got this lovely little navy and light blue and white graphic little bird on it, and I think it's going to look really, really nice with the floral. And then another element of embellishment that I want to add in is some bias tape. And this is a little bit nostalgic for me, because this is actually one of the bias tapes that I showed in my very first YouTube video, which was all about how to make continuous bias tape. So this was made from quilting cotton, like a little tiny piece that I pilfered from my stepmom's stash just because I loved all the colors. So I want to add that to the bodice as well. So that is the plan, and I've done a little rendering in Procreate to kind of serve as my guiding light. Obviously, drawing and execution are different things, so hopefully that all comes together. I'm not going to do like a sew along or anything like that. I will, though, stop along the way if I approach something in a way that is maybe different than what most people would, just to, in case that would be helpful to people. So, all right, let's get cutting. All right, it is the next day. I've got everything cut out. Let me just show you where I've gotten to. One thing I forgot to mention is that both the main fabric here and the bird fabric I had pre-stiffened with a mixture of cornstarch and water. I talked about that a little bit in my blouse making video, so you can refer to that if you like. First thing I did was the pleats in the sleeve. Whenever I have a fabric that is almost indistinguishable from the right side from the wrong side, I always start with the darts and the pleats, because it's another little indicator for me along the way. So I know on this project that from this little center notch that it marks the shoulder seam, that the pleats go down and away from that notch. So that helps me know that this is the right side. So I've done that on both of the sleeves. I have also done a very narrow rolled hem just on my machine with my little rolled hem foot. I haven't decided how I want to finish the sleeve cuff yet. There's an option to just turn it up and put elastic in it. You could also gather it and bind it, or I may put some bias binding a couple of inches up from the hem and put elastic through that, so that I end up with a little bit of ruffle at the end of the cuff. Haven't decided yet, but I figured with a rolled hem, which is easier to do with the sleeve flat, I can do pretty much any of those things. So that is the sleeves. Also, I had to piece the back of the back center bodice in the bird fabric. So I did that with a nice French seam. And next up, I did the facing. So there's a facing for the front and the back. And because this is a sheer fabric, and I'm already going to be doubling it because this will be the facing, and so obviously I'll have a double thickness of the fabric. But they're supposed to be interfaced, and I did not want to use white or black interfacing. I just thought that that would look weird and weird. So what I decided to try was sheer cup lining, which I have because I make all my own bras. So I have this that matches my skin tone, and it's lightweight, translucent, and it is very, very sturdy. So I cut the facing pieces out of that and used it as an interfacing. So I've sewn this together, right sides together with just a little 1/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to press it and turn it inside out, and then do a little bit of stay stitching along the curve of the neckline. I've already done that here on the back facing. So that's what that looks like. You can kind of see through it. It maintains its translucency, and I think that's going to be a great option. And I have an alarm going off. That was just my alarm letting me know that the hockey game starts in 15 minutes because our team is in the playoffs. Yay! So let me quickly show you the trim that I have made. This turned out really great. I ended up adding 1/4 of an inch of the main fabric with the magenta base on it, just because I know that sergers are always happier, in my experience, when they have a little bit of fabric to cut off. And it also gave me a very well-marked line that I could follow for this little light blue rolled hem on the trim. So that worked out great. And I also, in terms of gathering, this is my serger, which I have had for about 13 years now. And I was today years old when I discovered that it does a soft gather just by adjusting the settings. It can do it with 3 or 4 threads. And as it says here, a single layer of lightweight fabric can be gathered. So I thought that this was the perfect opportunity to give that a try. And when I did, I got this lovely piece of very, very softly gathered fabric. And as I mentioned, I don't want something super, super gathered. I just want some dimension. And this is a pretty good start. And it was so fast. So I considered this sort of a pre-gather, and it also let me try it out on my muslin, just kind of draping it over to see if this was enough dimension for me, and also how much trim I was going to need for the level of dimension and gathering that I wanted. So I determined that I wanted just a little tiny bit more. I do like this little wave, but I want a little bit more. So I just ran another basting stitch on my regular machine, just a basting stitch, a single one, about 1/4 of an inch away from the serged edge, and I got this. So this allows me to get the amount of ruffle and dimension that I want, and I know that I have enough for, just enough actually, for what I want to do on the bodice, and also what I want to do in that seam in the skirt. So just as a comparison, if I pull this out straight, you see you just get that little wave, and then this out straight, you get just a little bit more of that wave. So I am thrilled with how this turned out. I love the effect of gathering, but I hate doing it. And doing this kind of pre-gather just took so much stress and frustration out of it. And then running this single stitch was super easy. So that's where I've gotten to. And now I am going to go watch the hockey game. I had a nickel for every time I second guessed myself and thought during the finishing of this dress that I should just chop it off into a top, I would have a big pile of nickels. But ultimately, I'm really glad that I left it a dress because this is so flowy and pretty. It's a little bit more on the sweet and demure side of clothing, especially for things that I wear. But I actually do really love this, and who couldn't use more sweetness in their life. For the sleeve, I ended up just doing a casing at the end of the cuff and putting elastic through it. I didn't feel the need to add any more frills to this. I am just wearing this over a plain black knee-length slip, and I also like to wear my sheer dresses, of which I have a couple, over shorts in the summer. It's not for everybody, but I really like it, and for that reason, I decided to do the same thing that I've done on my other sheer dresses, which is to leave an opening in the side seam so that when I'm wearing either shorts or pants underneath that have a pocket, I can just slip my hands in and have access to the pockets. I find that that opening stays closed on its own pretty well, and because I'm never going to wear this without something underneath, it doesn't really matter if that gap comes open or not. Thank you so much for joining me on my little print mixing experiment. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, take great care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.